Yeah, what type of triangle? A right triangle, and you could use the right triangle to find H. Why did I call it H? The height. Yeah, this is the height of the triangle. Now, eventually what's going to happen is we're going to be finding the area of triangles. Area of a triangle is 1/2 base times height. We can use trig to find the height of that triangle. So use that red right triangle. What trig ratio are you going to use to find H? All of them? Okay. Well, what? You're talking about Ibuku. Oh, fine. Why sine? Who's saying? Aaron?
Because opposite.
Yeah, in relationship to this angle, this is the opposite side, this is the hypotenuse. So sine of the angle equals H over 10. If you want to get H by itself, what do? Multiply both sides by 10. So we get H equals 10 times sine 35. Punch that in your calculator. What's your approximate height?
5.73.
What'd you get?
5.73.
5.7. Okay. So the approximate height of this is 5.7. Now notice what we had to do in order to find the height. We had to use a right triangle. These ratios work when you have a right triangle. Okay, that's what we've been doing so far. Right triangle trigonometry. What happens if we don't have a right angle? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about this original triangle right here. Okay, that's not a right triangle. But we can still find missing sides and missing angles in that triangle. Not by using this. Okay, but we are still going to use that. All right, so what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to show you where this thing called the law of sines comes from. And we use the law of sines to find some missing angles and missing sides in triangles that are not right triangles. What's up? Yeah. It's right here, right? Yeah, hustle up. Okay, so I'm going to draw this in again. Actually, before I draw that in, we're going to look at the big triangle. If you want to follow along, I already have this drawn in your packet, but I'm going to be doing some other notes on top of it. But this triangle is in your packet. I'm taking you through some steps that are on page 14 in your packet. All right, but make sure you have your notebook out because I'm going to be doing some separate problems besides the ones that are in there. All right, when you have this big right triangle, this big triangle, A, B, and C are all capital letters. To label the side opposite angle A, you use a lowercase a. Opposite angle C, you use a lowercase c, and the side opposite angle B is a lowercase b. Okay, so I'm going to use some variables to represent what we just did again. Okay, so what we just did is I drew in an altitude, I made it a right angle, and I called this H. All right? Now, in this diagram, similar to what we just did to find H, what would the sine of angle A be? What's the sine of angle A? It's H over C, right, yeah. Here's our right triangle. Sine of angle A in the right triangle is H over C. What is sine of angle C? Now I've got another right triangle. Our other right triangle is over here. I hear some people saying it already. Yes, we're using this triangle. Opposite of angle C is H, and the hypotenuse is A. So sine of angle C is H over A. Okay? Now, before we just had some numbers in here, right? We were trying to solve for H. How do we get H by itself? Multiply both sides by C. Good. So this becomes C times sine A. And we can do the same thing over here. H equals, good, A times sine C. All right? So I'm using all these variables right now because I'm deriving this formula. That's called the law of sines. I'm showing you where it comes from. So we use sine, we use the altitude. Now look what we got here. Got two equations. H equals this. H also equals this. So in this diagram, H equals this and H equals this. So if H equals those two things are equal to each other. C times sine A equals A times sine C. What are you talking about? H equals this. H equals this. So that means they're equal to each other. If they're both equal to the same thing or equal to each other, it's called the transitive property. If A equals B and A equals C, then B and C are equal to each other. That's basically what I did there. Okay? Where's my eraser? All right, now, this all deals with proportions. Remember a similarity unit? If I put a sine A over here, and we're solving a proportion, what did I multiply sine A by to get this? C. And if I put a sine C over here, what did I multiply that by to get this? A. This is the law of sines. The sine of an angle over its opposite side equals the sine of an angle over its opposite side. So it's basically setting up a proportion with the sine of an angle and its opposite side, and the sine of another angle over its opposite side. And we could do it with all three angles. We could also do sine of B over its opposite side. Now, if this doesn't make sense to you, like, what the heck are you talking about, Mr. Sokolowski? This is what we need to know, and then we need to be able to apply it. All right? So I'm showing you, this is called the law of sines. I didn't just make this up. Okay? It came from deriving this formula. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you some lengths, and we're going to find the missing side in this not right triangle. Where's my lesson plan go? Here it is. All right, let's do this. 32 degrees. A. 18. 58 degrees. We're going to find A. All right, we're no longer on page 14. It's just some practice problems, and then you guys will be able to do some practice problems in your notes when we're done. All right, so first thing you should notice, this is not a right triangle. Or is it a right triangle? Is it? No. Is this a right angle?
No.
Shoot, maybe I made it a right triangle. I don't want to make it a right triangle. Shut up. This is now it's not a right triangle. Those stupid values I made, I like changed my notes, and as I changed them, I changed it to make it a right triangle, which just means you could use like sine, cosine, tangent. All right, now you can't. To change that to a 30. Okay, now it's not a right triangle anymore. Add them up, subtract from 180. Too bad, so sad. Okay? All right. Since it's not a right triangle, this is what we're going to use. Sine of an angle divided by its opposite side. Somebody give me a ratio. A ratio on this problem, smart Alex. Give me a ratio that we can use with the law of sines. Aiden, is that your hand in the air? I was like gonna get excited that you were volunteering. Oh, like, Aiden's volunteering instead of playing on his phone? He doesn't have his phone out. Give me a ratio. Sine of what? Shahan? Sine 30 what? Sine 30 over A. Sine of this angle over its opposite side. Equals, now let's create a proportion. Sine of 58, and what does that go over? Sine of 58 over 18. Now we have our proportion. We've got 3 values, 1 unknown. How do you solve a proportion? Good, cross multiply. So we're going to get 18 times sine 30 equals A times sine 58. This is A times sine 58. How do we get A by itself? That's what we're trying to do. Good. Divide both sides by sine 58. Divide by sine 58. Divide by sine 58. So A is going to be equal to what happens when we punch all that junk in our calculator. 18 sine 30 divided by sine 58, 10.6. What? 10.6. Let me know if you're not getting that on your calculator. I can see if you're punching in wrong. So what you could, like, if you use the parentheses, that's fine. Or you could just do 18 times sine 30, hit enter, get your decimal, then divide by sine 58. Okay? If you need help with your calculators when you guys are working on the problems by yourself, I'll walk around and make sure you're punching stuff in correct. Did I say punching stuff incorrectly? I said punching stuff incorrect, and it sounded like I was saying incorrect. No? Incorrectly. What's up, Jesus? Okay. Okay, so here, let's do this. Let's find, I'll walk around and help people. You guys find B. Hey, all my markers are dying. You guys find B. Okay? All right, let's go. Let me see. So whenever it's like something on your screen you don't want, just hit second quick.
Do you have to use
Okay.
some?
Yeah, law of sines. So use the law of sines, finding B.
What'd you get?
What are you doing first before you start plugging stuff into your proportion? Yeah. Find the angle measure. You're not going to just write sine of B over B. That's 2 unknowns.
Which pages are? What page are you?
14. Well, this problem's not on page 14. You guys are going to make, I'm making up these problems right now. Then you guys can do some. What's up, Aiden? Time to wake up. That's my wife's alarm. 18 times sine 30, enter. Because you don't know how to do word operations. We put it all in here and you assign it all that crap instead of just sine 30. Now divide that by sine 58. Right now you're finding B. You should have been setting one up on your own. And then punching it in, we're going to check to make sure we are getting the right values when we use our calculator.
Can I use
Can you tell me about that for a second for me? Because I want to see if there's a rubber thing that I'm missing because mine's leaking. Yeah, see, that's missing. Kids ruin my stuff because it's like leaking. I'm like, why is this leaking all over the place? See, that gasket is missing. So look at that.
What is doing wrong? Did I?
All right, so first thing you did,
Solve for B.
find measure of angle B. What did we get? 92. They all got to add up to 180, so that's 92 degrees. So then if I wrote sine of 92, that's over what? B equals, what do you guys use as your next ratio?
58.
Sine of 58? Now you could do sine of 30 over the 10.6, but that's a rounded answer. So let's do the ones that we know. And also, what if we got that wrong? Now we're going to get 2 wrong. So let's sine of 58 over 18. Okay?
So it doesn't matter which one you choose for your second one?
No, but use the givens, what you're given, because none of those are rounded answers. This is a rounded answer. Okay? Now cross multiply 18 times sine 92 equals B times sine 58. We good so far? Do you guys all do this? See, head nods. Okay, divide both sides by sine 58. And now you just got to make sure you're using your calculator correctly. If you're going to punch all this in at once, make sure this is in parentheses here. It's going to look like this. Then the division key. Otherwise, hit the numerator, hit enter, then hit divided by sine 58 so your calculator's doing the right order of operations. What do we get? 2 or 3? 21.2. Okay. All right, so that was just right there using law of sines to find a missing side in a triangle that's not a right triangle. If it's a right triangle, SOHCAHTOA. Okay, do the same thing we were doing last week. All right, now let's find a missing angle.
That was really loud.
Right now, you're gonna be like, "Oh, I'm multitasking." Really? If you were doing that correctly, I'd see some notes. You're just like gonna memorize how to do all this stuff. Okay. We'll see. We'll see. But you are gonna do the practice problems here in like 4 minutes, correct? All right, Ibuku, tell me the proportion you set up. I didn't.
Wait, does this
All right, tell me the proportion that you're thinking of.
C.
What's C? Yeah, good question.
Sine 60.
Sine what?
64.
64.
Over
Over 15.
15 equals
Sine of B.
sine B. This is what we're trying to find now.
Over 12.
Over 12. So there's our proportion. That's the law of sines. Sine of the angle, opposite side. Sine of the angle, opposite side. This is our unknown. We're now finding an angle measure. So proportion, cross multiply. 12 times sine 64 equals 15 times sine B. What's next? Don't. What? Yeah, okay, now it's a little different process, right? Over here, we're getting a side length by itself. We divide it by the sine 58. Now we're trying to get this angle by itself. We're multiplying sine B by 15. So divide both sides by 15. Look at these stupid little markers. I gotta get more markers. Now I got all these little guys. Okay? Sine B equals all of this. And now what do we do to find angle measures? Inverse, yes.
Yeah, that's
To find B, we got to do the inverse sine of all of this. Okay? So here again, 12 times sine 64, hit enter, divided by 15. Get your decimal.
I think I got it.
Inverse sine, let's get this decimal.
Is it 40?
Make sure we're doing it correct.
46?
Yeah, it's like 46 degrees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got it.
12
Oh,
times sine 64 is 10 point, that's 10.8 about,
It's 45.
divided by 15. So in here, 0.7190. And then we're going to be doing the inverse sine of that. Second sine
Wait, where'd you get 7? Wait,
0.7190. Yeah, I'm not putting it all in at once just so people can follow along with their calculator. So you guys should have got approximately 46 degrees.
Wait,
He's rounding up, guys.
45.97, so 46 degrees.
I like
Right.
these units. That's
So now, if we know this is 46, then what's this? 70. And if that's 70, now we can find another missing side. Side. Using sine. Sine of 70 over this. Sine of 64 over this. And then we'll do all this junk again to find that missing side.
You want us to find.
Okay. All right, you guys are going to do 3 practice problems. You're going to find all missing sides and missing angles in your packet. It's page 15. You're doing example 1, A through C. Okay. Now listen about the remainder of the week. Thursday is Pi Day. Okay, so we're doing all the math classes. We're doing a circle drawing contest.